This is another video about landscape design with fabric or yarn or textiles, and these are all those scrappy looking pieces that I had the other day on a very old pillowcase. Now, here's part of why I'm doing this. Here's a package of copy paper, multi-purpose copy paper. 3 trees planted, it says on the package. For every one, now this is interesting. For every tree harvested, 3 trees planted. So okay, I did good. I didn't know that. It was the only paper available because I got it with my grocery order. $10 is my point. $10, and this is multi-purpose copy paper. It is white. It's 8.5 by 11. You could do landscape designs in ink on it, but you would be using Koh-i-Noor rapidograph pens, and you would be using Koh-i-Noor Ultra Draw ink because any other inks and pens is going to bleed through this kind of a paper. So basically, you pay $10 for sketch paper. You can buy vellum or tracing paper. Sometimes tracing paper is cheaper, not always. So now, I thought they were kind of making fun of trees when they had leaves all over it, but this is good. So 3 trees planted for every one harvested. That's wonderful. The company name is Printworks, so if you're going to work with paper, maybe you should look for that. My point is that this is like disposable. It's almost like paper towel as far as the quality of the paper when you're doing landscape design. I mean, and if you went to a client and you had 3 or 4 different proposals, you'd have a little file folder with 3 or 4 plans laid out on this, and you would have put all the time and the thinking and everything into it. And I don't know. It's like disposable. And most companies do not plant trees for every tree they take. So that's one of the main points why I'm saying textiles. I do grow trees. I do carve trees, but I do what they do. In fact, I have like almost 28 trees now because I took one down. So, you know, what they did is good. This, I think, is better. Now, yes, if you walked into a client with 3 or 4 bright white, brand new pillowcases with textiles on them, you can bet that they're going to remember you instead of any other landscape designer that walked in the door. So there's one positive aspect. But I wanted to talk about very quickly about these handheld chain stitchers. So here are the same pieces I had the other day, and I haven't done anything with them yet but iron them. Now, if you have pre-cut pieces that mean, like 5-inch squares mean houses, 2-inch denim strips mean roads, if you have all your pieces pre-cut, you can actually design in fabric the same way you do with a pen, only using these handheld stitchers. Now, I'm not going to be too picky about this because this is just like a practice. And with this one, it's battery operated or even a handheld. When you want to move the fabric around, just turn the wheel, get the needle back up, get your direction straight. And sometimes working on the edge can be okay, so get the needle back up again. On the manual ones, the needle doesn't go up and down. Pull your thread out from the bobbin behind the needle, and either pull it so that the thread breaks and locks the stitch, or cut it and make sure your stitch is locked. And most of them come with the directions to do that. Okay, so now here are my two squares stitched together, and depending on how big of a page you're working on, I could then pin that in place, press it down a little bit, and probably I would be turning it under if this were going to be like for a client or something. So I can even do that. I can press them all under right here on my pillowcase, and depending on how big of a page you're working on, you might be able to just stitch it right down with the handheld. In this case, because my pillowcase is a full one, which is 20 by 30, I would probably use a hand crank, or I could use a Model 20, a small hand crank, to put this down. So it's almost like working with a felt board, only you're going to put it down. So I can sew these strips together end to end and then trim them. I can press them under. There's my road. Here were the other two houses. And this one goes across the street. Now, so say I press all of these down where they're supposed to go, and either with a Model 20 or a bigger machine if you feel like using one, I get these basic elements stitched down. One big advantage here, and again, depending on how big your page is, you might be able to get away with doing almost all of this with one of these. But if you need to use another machine because of the spacing of the pages, now what you can do, these are your main structures, as I said the other day. You could make 5 or 6 pages like this and always have 5 or 6 pages that are already laid out. This happens to be a certain street, but you could always put a house in the middle and then know this is going to be your backyard and the other one's going to be your front yard. It's just easier. I mean, I have sat for hours doing landscape design meticulously, and if you pick out bright white pillowcases, classic looking fabrics, or even some florals, if you want to always plant rhododendrons or something, you find a specific floral that always means that. Because you're working with scrap fabrics that are small, you could lay out 4 or 5 designs very easily and quickly, and then they'll work for more than one yard, is what I'm saying. They're probably going to work for more than one client. Every client is going to have soil differences, so maybe you don't stitch the flower and tree motifs down because maybe they live near a swamp and you have to move everything to the other side of the house. You can put basic structures down very easily, having an iron, a simple hand stitcher, and scraps of fabric, and then take it from there and have this be a foundation. The other thing is I'm doing pages in wool and yarn, which are actually going to be the winter landscape, and then the cottons are going to be the summer landscape. So if I take, I don't have it right here, but if I take my tree motif and I put it, pretend this is the tree motif, and my white pine was in the backyard, the only thing we ever saw in the winter was the tree. Everything else was under the snow. So you need to think of that too, and this can be your summer garden that would change every year, and the wool and the yarn panels can be your winter landscape. There's so much you can do in using texture and textiles that is so much more exciting than black and white circles or triangles or squares on paper.